The new house of my dreams was completed, and I was thrilled about the new life that was about to begin. While looking over our new home, I imagined our future life. There were many things I wanted to start anew, and I was excited. At that moment, my in-laws arrived unexpectedly. What an unreasonable daughter-in-law you are. We are going to live here from now on. Move your parents somewhere else. What are you saying? Confused, I asked my husband, but he sighed and said, "That's the reality. I'll tell your parents that." Before I could reply, my in-laws entered the house. I took a deep breath and calmly asked back, "Do you understand whose house this is?" "My name is Donna. I am 35 years old and work for a company. I have been married to James for 5 years. We have a son named Adam, who is only 4 years old but acts like an adult because he was raised among adults. Raising a child is challenging, but my days with my son are nothing but happiness. However, I have one concern. It is that my elderly parents are suffering from leg and back pain. After much consideration, I discussed the possibility of living with my parents with my husband. That's a concern, indeed. It would be a good way to repay them for everything they have done for you, and if it makes you feel secure, Donna, I see no problem with it." "Really? That's great. Thank you, James." As my husband immediately agreed, I am grateful to have married such a caring person. Thus, I began preparations to live together with my parents under my initiative, but things did not proceed without problems. My parents' house is located in the suburbs, a considerable distance from the city center. Living there would make commuting extremely difficult. Furthermore, we were unable to commute by car, making life at my parents' house a challenging situation. We were then living in a rental apartment suitable for a couple, and it was not realistic to have our parents join us. Because our son is growing, that plan is not feasible. After much thought, I came up with an idea. "James, I've reconsidered. How about we build a new, larger house? Perhaps now is the time to be bold in our actions." Upon hearing the proposal, my husband immediately agreed. "That's a great idea. Let's build a comfortable house and live there together." With my husband's approval, we began preparing for the new house. First, we contacted my parents. When we talked, my parents reacted awkwardly. "We don't want to be a burden to you and your family, Donna. As Adam grows, our current home will eventually feel too small, and considering the future, now is the right time to build a house." I said this to my hesitating father. Once they understood that we weren't just being considerate, my parents finally agreed. I felt relieved seeing my parents feeling relieved and happy. After that, though we were busy, my husband and I visited the real estate agent several times. When thinking about location, having a hospital nearby would be convenient for my parents, and being close to a train station would be ideal for work. Considering my parents' mobility issues, a barrier-free environment was recommended, and following this advice, we reviewed several options and had many meetings. When I asked my parents if they had any preferences, they said, "As long as we are with you and your family, that's enough, Donna." Without leaving everything to me, my husband also made various suggestions, and the plan progressed smoothly. As the planning became more concrete, my excitement grew. Using ideas from my husband, suggestions from the real estate agent, and information from the internet, all the preparations were eventually completed. Then, I placed the orders with the contractors. Finally, all the preparations are done. It really required a lot of effort. There were many conditions and requests. Preparing while working was really tough. It was good that James's advice was so helpful. We were exhausted from preparing almost without any rest, but we were filled with a sense of accomplishment. Thanks to our efforts and time, we managed to get an ideal layout and location. Now, all that was left was to wait for it to be completed. Although it took time, just thinking about our new home made me excited and boosted my motivation at work. During those exciting days, my in-laws, having heard about the new house plans, frequently contacted us. "It's been a while. I heard from James that you are building a new house. Is that true?" "Yes, that's right. It's scheduled to be completed by the end of the year." "Oh, that's exciting. James has become so respectable, and we are so happy. We'd love to hear more about the new house, so if you have time, please come visit us. Eh? Oh, okay. That was the phone call from my mother-in-law. Amidst our busy schedule, we had been delaying visiting my husband's parents, so we decided to visit them over the weekend immediately. My in-laws welcomed us warmly. Building a house is hard, but it's a fun experience. A home of your own is a dream come true. Congratulations. My father-in-law was as happy as if it were his own achievement. I was moved and smiled. Thank you. It was certainly tough, but we are really looking forward to it. I want it to be completed soon, but I'm worried about mistakes, yet I'm thrilled about the new house. We were always excited and talked cheerfully. By the way, what's the layout like? Suddenly curious, my mother-in-law asked, clapping her hands, so I showed the floor plan saved on my smartphone to my in-laws. Whoa, it's quite a big house, isn't it? The number of rooms might be too many for just the two of you, right? My mother-in-law and father-in-law commented. We're considering living with Donna's parents. We also planned it to be spacious in case we have another child in the future. My husband replied. Surprised, my in-laws asked, You're going to live with Donna's parents? Yes, that's right. Donna's parents have been getting weaker, so we decided to live together. That's why we decided to buy a new house. I see, living together. While James was explaining in detail, I noticed a change in the attitude of my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Thinking about it later, I realized that this topic might not be very appealing to my in-laws. So, I decided to change the direction of the conversation. By the way, how have you both been feeling lately? Any changes? No, not really any problems. Yes, not much different from the last time we met. My in-laws answered like that, but when the conversation settled, we returned to the topic of the new house. But I want to know more about the new house. Which room will Donna's parents use? We're thinking about this area here. James, unaware of the change in my in-laws, answered honestly. However, when we talked about planning to live with my parents, my in-laws showed a notably displeased appearance. They seemed to be dissatisfied with us prioritizing my parents. I felt a bit hesitant too, but there is no doubt that I prioritize my parents. The main reason for building the house is for my parents, and I hope they will understand that someday. However, it became clear that my in-laws were not that gracious. As time passed, the house steadily approached completion. Every time I visited the construction site, I eagerly awaited its completion while also spending busy moments paying attention to the details. My parents also visited the site several times, and I could see them filled with joy. Doing something for my family makes me realize again how rewarding it is for me, too. However, there was one thing that worried me. It is the fact that recently James has been keeping close contact with his parents. He has started visiting his parents' home every weekend. James, are you going to your parents' house this weekend too? Yes, I am. You've been visiting more often recently. I'm trying to be a good son like you, Donna. Now that our new house's preparations have settled down, I should show my face during the holidays. That's nice. You are really kind, James. Maybe I should come along with you. Actually, I had some concerns about my in-laws. I was worried whether they felt neglected and if that had affected their health. I thought about helping out as well, not just leaving it to my husband. But he shook his head when I suggested it. I had my doubts about whether it was the right approach, but he said, I'm enough by myself, and went to his parents' house alone. I told him that if he needed any help, I would join him, so I believed he would call me someday. I sent him off that day. Finally, our new house was completed, and the moving day arrived. We loaded our things into the car and headed to our new home. The new house was more beautiful and grand than I imagined. I was so moved that I gasped. The new house of my dreams was completed, and I was thrilled about the new life that was about to begin. While looking over our new home, I imagined our future life. There were many things I wanted to start anew, and I was excited. In the spacious garden, we could invite my in-laws for a barbecue, and my son and husband could play there. It seemed my parents were stuck in traffic, and it would take them a while to come over. You go ahead and wait inside. James suggested that, but I wanted to enter the house together with them. I was about to reply, "No, I'll wait here," when suddenly, my in-laws' car arrived. Why were they visiting? As I stared in surprise, my in-laws got out of the car with bright smiles. This house is really magnificent. This beautiful home is something to be proud of. That's right. It's a perfect house, meticulously planned together with Donna. My husband cheerfully responded to his parents' comments. Really, Donna's sense has indeed been wonderful. I might even admit that. Thank you. I replied as my in-laws haughtily threw out those words. After thanking them, they began unloading heavy luggage from the car. I approached my in-laws in surprise and asked, "Please wait. What are these bags for? What are you trying to do?" To my question, my in-laws gave a shocking reply. "What do you mean?" "Of course, we are bringing these bags into the new house." "What?" With my mouth agape in astonishment, my mother-in-law sighed and responded, "What an unreasonable daughter-in-law. We are going to live here from now on. Move your parents somewhere else." "What are you saying?" As I exclaimed in surprise, my mother-in-law shook her head in disbelief and crossed her arms arrogantly. Normally, a daughter-in-law should respect her husband's family. That's why it's only natural for us to live in this new house. That's out of the question. Hurry up, contact your parents. We need to put our luggage down and we don't have time to attend to you, my mother-in-law declared haughtily. Struggling to understand, I looked to my husband for help, but he responded without changing his expression. "That's the reality. I'll tell your parents that." "Wait a minute. What are you talking about? We built this house to live with my parents. Please don't be so selfish." As I protested, my husband sighed in frustration. You still don't understand? You should just serve me. Your parents will manage somewhere else." I clenched my fists in anger. My husband was already influenced by his parents. Perhaps until then, his true nature was not apparent, and it has only just become clear. "Stop standing there, come help with the bags," his parents ordered and confidently proceeded into the house. Even though I am the owner and had yet to step into the house, their unreasonable behavior infuriated me. Wonderful. The decorations are beautiful and luxurious. With faces filled with joy, my in-laws inspected every corner of the house. My anger reached its peak, and I said to them coldly, "Do you understand whose house this is?" "What?" Caught while they were in a good mood, my in-laws turned to face my question. "Whose house?" "This is James's house, of course. You think it's a shared property between husband and wife? Such a presumptuous thought is inappropriate. It's audacious for you to claim the new house for yourself when you're being looked after by James." Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law criticized me harshly without giving me a chance to argue. It became clear at that moment that my in-laws were unaware of our financial situation. It seemed James had not explained anything to them. It's unnatural for a house built by James to be shared with his wife. Really, such a presumptuous daughter-in-law is rare. I pity James for having a wife and in-laws like this. My in-laws did not cease their critical words based on their misunderstanding. Finally reaching my limit, I stared sharply at my husband and his parents. "I understand your point. If it really comes down to you all living here, then I will need James to reimburse me for my investment in this house." At that, my in-laws tilted their heads in confusion. "How much money did you actually contribute? The amount you're talking about must be trivial. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" They responded while bursting into laughter. I glanced at my husband, who remained silent, his mouth firmly shut. Filled with anger, I blurted out, "Why are you silent? You really have a lot of nerve. It's unbelievable that you would hide something so important." Well. When pressed, my husband fidgeted and averted his gaze. At that moment, my mother-in-law intervened and demanded, "What are you trying to say?" My husband looked pale with fear. Realizing I couldn't expect an explanation from him, I decided to clarify myself. In fact, the funds for purchasing this house were all paid from my savings. Therefore, this house is technically mine. As I revealed this, I saw my husband's pale face. It was as if he had held his breath. I continued, if you want to live here, you need to repay the $330,000 used to build this house immediately. My declaration shocked my in-laws, and they were left speechless. The next moment, they turned to my husband, pressing him in a panic. James, is that true? Is Donna really the owner of this house? Faced with their questions, my husband seemed to have no choice but to admit the truth. Looking slowly at my nodding husband, he explained, actually, Donna purchased this house. She is very capable and already holds a managerial position. Her salary is significantly higher than mine. But James, you have been working at your current job for a long time, right? That's right. You graduated from a prestigious university. You should be earning a high salary. My in-laws insisted. My husband, having a high sense of pride, must have been spinning the story to suit himself. However, even he couldn't hide his disturbance under the relentless questioning from his parents. Actually, I recently made a big mistake. I almost got fired, and my salary dropped to the level of a new graduate. My husband finally confessed everything. Shocked by this revelation, his parents were left speechless. I can't believe that James would end up like this. When my mother-in-law murmured that softly, my in-laws quickly ran over to me, their previous rude behavior seeming like a lie, and they apologized profusely. Donna, we are truly sorry for what we said earlier. My in-laws said, please, we apologize. Could you possibly allow us to stay here? They continued, what? As I looked at them sternly, they both pleaded at once. Seeing this, my husband also became desperate and pleaded, please, it was wrong of me not to explain. Can you forgive us and allow us to live here? Responding with a calm voice beyond anger, I said, no matter what you say now, I cannot forgive you. This house was purchased to live with my parents. If that cannot be fulfilled, there was no point in buying it. If you insist on staying here, you must immediately pay $330,000. How can we possibly come up with such a huge sum? My in-laws responded, then you must leave. I stated firmly. When I refused, my in-laws began to cry and clung to me. Please don't say such things. We've sold our home and have nowhere else to go. Donna, please forgive us. Please allow us to live here with your parents too. Unbelievable. A household where a couple lives with both sets of parents is unheard of. No matter the reason, it's impossible. If you've sold your house, you should use the proceeds to find another place to live. As I declared this while looking down on them, they began to cry simultaneously. My father-in-law pleaded with a trembling voice. To tell the truth, I've recently made huge debts through investments and gambling. We've used up the proceeds from the sold house and the retirement money, and now we have absolutely nothing left. What? We're retired, can't find work, and my wife has never worked outside the home. You're all we have left, Donna. Their expectations were clear, but this situation stemmed entirely from my father-in-law's actions and has nothing to do with me. You should rely on your proud son. I have no obligation to support you financially, so unfortunately, I cannot help. However, we are legally a family. Remember that. Regrettably, it is impossible to continue living with disrespectful parents and a husband who neither prevents illegal occupation of my property nor stops demanding it. Therefore, I have decided to divorce James. At my firm declaration, my husband weakly pleaded, wait a minute. Divorce isn't something you can just decide like that. Please, don't say such things, Donna. I'm sorry, but I've reached my limit. Please leave this house immediately. Faced with the possibility of divorce, my husband was clearly shaken and, along with his parents, repeatedly pleaded, but my decision was firm. I cannot tolerate them staying in our house without permission for an extended period. If you continue to stay, I will call the police. My firm declaration made my in-laws choose to leave the house hastily. Nevertheless, my husband argued, legally, I am still your husband and have a right to reside here, but I could not accept his claim. If you continue to stay here, I am prepared to take legal action and have you removed. Are you really okay with that? During this conversation, our son, who had been napping, woke up and entered the room. Then he unexpectedly said, "If it goes to court, Dad will be in a really tough situation." Hearing our son's innocent remark, my husband must have felt even more anxiety and desperation. Already at risk of being fired due to mistakes at work, the potential of getting involved in a legal battle greatly increases his chances of dismissal. Quickly grasping this harsh reality, my husband, with a pained expression, hurriedly gathered his belongings and quietly left the house. Just after that, my parents arrived for a visit. Noticing that my husband was nowhere to be seen, my parents were initially shocked. As I explained everything that had happened, they gradually showed warm smiles and expressed their gratitude. "You've stood up so strongly for yourself. Thank you. We're proud of you. You are a wonderful daughter," they said. Hearing their words, I felt a release from the anxiety I had been carrying for a long time and finally regained peace of mind. I had hoped that my husband would understand and accept the situation, but that was a wish unfulfilled. Perhaps escaping from a family that belittled me before things escalated further was actually a stroke of good fortune. The in-laws who had insulted me called repeatedly a week after I drove them out, but I decided not to respond to any of their attempts. According to some information, after losing their home, my in-laws are barely surviving in a poor-quality apartment. Eventually, my relationship with my husband officially ended and the divorce was finalized. Due to his workplace failures, he was transferred to a different region and is now living a challenging new life. Meanwhile, every time I see my parents enjoying the sunshine in the spacious garden of our new home, I feel truly happy. Although things didn't turn out as planned, we are leading a peaceful and joyful life in this beautiful house. As a single mother starting a new life, I am convinced that raising my child in this stress-free environment is far better than the co-parenting I previously endured with my ex-husband. I am committed to doing everything I can until the day my son grows into a fine adult.